Welcome to MojoTalks. I'm Justin, joined as always by my lovely colleague Chris.
Hello, fellow lovely people.
And this is Watch Club.
Watch Club.
Where we talk about the biggest shows on TV. That happens to be Legion at the moment.
Legion.
And we're talking about Season 2.
Episode 2.
Episode 2.
Chapter 10.
It's called Chapter 10. And today we're going to be just breaking down some of our favorite moments, some things you may have missed.
And predictions.
And some predictions.
The show is just like so open to predictions because they leave so many unanswered questions.
Yes, as soon as they answer one question,
they ask another.
They ask another. So we've got plenty to talk about.
What are some of your favorite moments here?
Well, we started off with a pretty exciting moment with Oliver infiltrating Division 3 thanks to David's trickery. They're colluding to find Farouk's body based on last week we saw that Sid from the future warned that David should help find his body, and that's what we see here happening, though doesn't look like his body's at Division 3. Looks like he's after something else over there.
Yep, looks like he's after something else. I loved how in this scene it just switched into like full horror movie mode.
Yes.
Like even the like, the violin sort of screeches.
Yeah, mixed in with some classic Legion absurdity with, Oliver turning people into animals, fish.
And just a hint of a musical number.
Yes.
More. I want to see Lenny sing all the time.
Yes, absolutely.
Every episode.
Brightened up the scene. What about you? What's some of your favorite?
Okay, well, shortly after that, we had Carey and Kerry getting reversed. Right? And the moment where they try to go back together, I felt was just handled so well. They put like 3 different moments into one. First, you think that, oh no, they can't go back together again. They're separated permanently. And then you see it from female Carrie's back. She's just kind of frozen. And you think, oh no, they've reversed their nesting dollness. And then she turns around and nope, it's a Cronenberg.
Yes.
They've been Cronenberged.
Body horror at its finest.
Yeah, exactly.
With a little bit of a hand protruding from Carrie's chest.
Yeah.
Kind of gross on any other show on Legion. Par for the course, not that weird.
And I mean, if I'm going to be critical, they kind of just like let that slide after, like, oh, they dealt with it somehow.
We fixed it,
And it was just a shock to bring us into the act break. Did it bring into the act break?
I believe it did.
So,
but
hey, I'm cool.
Yeah,
it was a really cool moment.
It was a cool moment. Shortly after that, David, realizing that Farouk kind of betrayed him by killing some members of Division 3, goes and tries to find him, but instead, ends up finding and going after future Sid, having another conversation where they could actually speak this time. And that's where we learn of the impending doom that is trying to be prevented by having Sid message David in the past to find Farouk's body. It's very vague. They don't give too many details. All we know is the future is not a nice place to be. Farouk is dead in this future. David is gone. And it's someone took Sid's arm. Not sure how that happened, but I'm sure we'll find out.
I loved all the little visual touches in this, and audio touches too, how Sid sounds a little bit like a robot.
A little robotic.
It's a little bit jumpy. It's like there's some distortion between David's physical reality and this future astral plane outside of time where he's been teleported to. And I think we'll probably come back to some more stuff about that, scene in a little bit. I wanted to talk about what I thought was really cool, which was the confrontation between Farouk and David. And I feel like what we're seeing again here, we saw it in the last episode, we've seen it in the past, is really inventive ways of representing psychic battles, And I don't really think that like anywhere else in the Marvel TV or cinematic universe, there's been like good representations of psychic battle. Usually it's like, I'm using my mind, and there's like maybe colorful energy splashing. That's what you'd expect to see, right? But here they're representing it as like a wrestling match, which is a bit on the nose as a metaphor, but that shifts into, nope, it's not wrestling, it's a samurai fight. Nope, I'm not a samurai, I'm a tank, you're a tank, I'm a hurricane, I'm a tornado. Which I thought was pretty inventive. But there's one thing I wanted to point out, which was I really like to touch how Farouk was speaking, I think, multiple,
yes,
like 3 or 4, maybe more languages.
Caught French, but not sure what else. Yeah.
English, French, something that sounded like Arabic,
yes,
and German. I'm pretty sure at one point when he's like, "Let's play," I'm pretty sure that sounded like he was speaking German. And the way I interpreted that is like, it's telling us that like Farouk is old, he's been around, he has a lot of power, and yet the fact that David, he just speaks in English, but he understands everything, to me is an indication that like David has a lot of untapped potential, right? A lot of untapped power. Like, he can keep up with everything that this old pro is doing, and without even realizing that he can do it himself.
And Farouk, I think, sees that in David. I think part of the reason that at this point he hasn't killed him yet, or gotten rid. He sees a use to David, and he sees like potentially someone that could become as powerful as him. And maybe he sees that as a threat, but for now he sees that as an opportunity to get what he wants by having a powerful ally.
Yeah, reminding us that that's really the basis of their relationship. That's why this all started in the beginning.
Yeah.
So those are our favorite moments. How about some little things that we might have missed? What do you got?
I've caught some X-Men references in this episode.
You're a big X-Men fan?
Sometimes this show doesn't like to play in too much into the fact that it's a superhero show. I know Noah Hawley has talked a lot about that. But occasionally, like in last season where we see a drawing of David's father and it's a bald guy hinting to his origin as Professor X's son in the comics, this week had some weird allusions, including when we have that conversation with Sid from the future, who warns of an impending doom in the future and having to change something in the past to prevent it. That reminded me a lot of the classic Chris Claremont story, Days of Future Past.
Feels a lot like that.
Yeah, and it has a lot of similar elements. I'm sure it'll deviate drastically from that, but it definitely parallels to be drawn. And the other thing is when they do have that psychic battle in the astral plane between David and Farouk, they're wearing these like traditional wrestling onesies, and David's is blue and yellow, which are the traditional X-Men colors. So that was a cool little nod I found to the classic costumes that you don't get to see. Even in the X-Men movies, you don't really get to see that many references to the classic costumes. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, you get a bit of lamp shading about them maybe in the first one.
Yes, that's right.
One thing that I noticed like over and over, the very first shot of the episode is kind of this kaleidoscope that then becomes the lollipop that Lenny is licking, right? So to me that says circles. I gotta watch for circles. And you see it over and over again. Man, I made a huge long list of them. There's a crystal orb, there's the hurricane, these are all like circles, there's the carousel, there's the ballerina pirouetting, there's circles in when he's traveling outside of time there's these purple circular patterns, circles, circles, circles all over the place. And a motif that you see a lot in Division 3, especially in the last episode, is hexagons, right? This sort of honeycomb shape all over the place. And so if you have like circles that are sort of more representing Farouk's world, the hexagons that are representing Division 3 more, look at Farouk's sunglasses. They're kind of a hexagon, but like with rounded edges. It's like a rounded hexagon. To me, that's indicating that like they will be working together, right? I think it's a little hint that maybe Farouk can do what's good for mankind, you know? Another little hint, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, is when he spared the children in Division 3. It's like, run away, children, you know, instead of just turning them into pigs or fish or
other ridiculous animals. Yeah.
Yep.
We also got another John Hamm narrated little anthology of weird stories. Not as gruesome as last week, though I suppose a child being hit by a car, you could argue, is not the best.
I mean,
but it's not a guy cutting his own leg off.
No,
we
not
can agree. What I like about these little vignettes is that they kind of vaguely tie in with the larger themes of the season so far. I mean, Legion is all about reality and having the rug pulled out from under you, and we've seen it several times where we think we're looking at one thing and we're actually looking at something else. And in a way, like, you could argue that Noah Hawley is Oliver in that situation, telling us one thing is red when the other thing is green, and then putting us out on the road to get hit by a car. I mean, there are a lot of these moments that completely shift our perspective from last season, and I feel like it's inevitably going to happen this season, where something big twist or big reveal happens where we've been looking at the puzzle all wrong, and in fact, red was green the whole time.
Yeah, I think that's definitely an apt metaphor for what's happening in our experience watching it. One thing I noticed about that little John Hamm section is that when we're shown the Bloodhound, there's a little info box, and it mentions in there that bloodhounds were originally bred by monks. Right? And I think if there's one thing that the show has been really good at, it's being economical in its use of apparently random images, right? They come back, they end up meaning something. And so I don't think it's the last that we've seen of bloodhounds. I think blood is going to be like a new motif that we come back to. One thing that I felt this episode was coming back to often was this idea of uneasy partnerships, right? In the last episode, one of the first scenes shows us how Division 3 and the Summerland crew have come together and they're working together now.
Right.
But in this one, the scene where the vocoder twins tell David that there's a 63% chance that he's been lying, and then Melanie defends him, pretty clearly draws a line in the sand there, right? There's this uneasy partnership that David and Farouk have now formed. I think that these uneasy partnerships are all over. Even with him and future Sid, I think we should have some doubt as
skepticism,
as to that authenticity, which I think kind of leads us into our last part, which is our predictions.
Predictions. What's going to happen in the future, both in the world of Legion and in a couple episodes from now. The big thing that kind of stayed with me after watching that Sid future scene and noting the robotic voice and noting kind of how weird and vague everything was, I don't think that Sid is Sid. And if it is, I think something has happened in the process to make Sid evil, or at least she's not revealing her entire motivations. I think there's something there that we're not seeing yet, and that David is naively following whatever she says because it is Sid and he does love her. But I don't think that's the person he's in love with.
His naivety is even underlined, when she's like, "You're different than you are now. You're sweet," as though she's so conditioned to being dishonest, that she can notice that he's naive. And then he acts very sweetly after that in the scene. So yeah, I think that there's something there too. In general, I think all partnerships, we'll see them reversed. We'll see them turn on each other, but will they come back together in the end because of the catalyst?
Yes, the catalyst is, I mean, when Oliver breaks into Division 3, he's very focused on the room where they're keeping all the Catalyst victims. And you get that great sound design of the clattering teeth again, very haunting stuff. I think it's fair to say at this point that Farouk is not involved in the Catalyst or inciting the Catalyst. But he is fascinated by it. And I think it's fair to say that whatever is endangering the future that Sid belongs to is directly related to whatever is causing or surrounding the Catalyst. I think those things are definitely linked, and it will be interesting to see how they are connected.
Word up.
Yeah.
One quick thing I noticed, whoops, there goes my pen. One quick thing I noticed, David's a bad liar for a psychic.
Yes, that's a really good point. Yeah, he is.
He's caught out in a lot of lies, which says something about him. I think Sid's right. He is sweet. All the stuff he's gone through, and all the abilities he had. There's this contradiction in him of he's still kind of a naive boy.
Yeah, and it kind of endears us to him because we've seen enough evil psychics in our long history of watching pop culture to see someone who's kind of a little responsible with his powers. And sure, he does read the occasional mind when he wants information, but for the most part, he's just trying to get by, man. He doesn't want to ruffle too many feathers when, he could easily be the most manipulative character on the show. It's the people without powers that are really trying to manipulate him. So
layers, man.
Oh yeah,
layers.
That's right. So I think that's it for us today.
That's all I got
on the Watch Club. Thanks for watching, and you can subscribe to MojoTalks, and don't forget to ring that bell for a bunch of great content, discussions about all your favorite stuff, pop culture, business, whatever you're into. MojoTalks has it. So again, from me and Chris, thanks for watching.
See you next week.